Welcome to FloodX. The FloodX system is self-contained and comes in a 12 by 6 inch by 4 inch box. These are the contents. This is the upper unit that fits over the ball valve in the water supply line. It closes the valve when a leak occurs. It has an internal spring partially cocked for easy installation. This is the lower unit that detects a leak and activates the upper unit to close the valve. It's preloaded with a water-sensitive cartridge that triggers the system about 30 seconds after a leak begins. A 10-foot coil length of wire used to connect the upper and lower units is attached. This is the installation instructions manual. You'll need this. This is an extra water-sensitive cartridge if it's ever needed. These are two hose clamps used to fasten the upper unit on the inlet water pipe to hold the unit in place. This is an eye bolt. It can be screwed into the wall to run the connecting wire through to divert the wire around any obstruction between the upper and lower units. This pipe is put over the valve handle to get more leverage when activating the system. We call it a cheater. These are the two types of valves normally used in the water supply line to a water heater. Most plumbers currently use a ball valve, seen on the left. The FloodX system is designed for these. They open and close with a quarter turn of the handle and are quite reliable. Many homes have a gate valve such as seen on the right. Gate valves require 3 or 4 turns to open and close, are inconsistent in quality, and tend to corrode and stick or freeze with time. In order to install a FloodX system, a ball valve is required. Your plumber can readily change valves out if that's needed. This shows a ball valve in the inlet pipe. Before installing FloodX, the valve should be opened and closed several times to assure that it operates readily. We're now ready to install the upper unit. The valve will be in the open position parallel to the pipe. To install the unit, first close that valve. The closed valve handle will be slipped through the gap between the spring handle and the window in the plastic housing. The gap is shown here. The upper unit is placed over the valve. Note the valve is in the closed position. The valve handle has now been placed through the gap and the unit can be clamped in place. The hose clamps are placed over the ears of the plastic housing used to attach the unit to the inlet pipe. These clamps must be fastened extremely tight because they have to hold the entire force of the powerful spring used to close the valve. Water heater valves aren't always vertical, but the upper unit has to be directly above the valve. So, when you install the upper unit and the valve isn't vertical, cock it at the same angle as the valve when you tighten the clamps. The next step is to release the plastic tie back to free the spring. This is done by pulling the valve handle, now resisted by the spring, toward the open position, simultaneously unhooking the tie back from its bolt. The tie back is shoved back inside the cover so it can be used again to tie back the spring if the unit is to ever be changed to a new water heater or moved to a different location. It's now time to install the lower unit. This unit needs to be installed against the base of the water heater in a location where the connecting wire can be readily attached to the trigger bar of the upper unit. After the location has been chosen for the lower unit, remove the paper protecting the glued side of the Velcro and slide the lower unit against the heater base with the bottom of the lower unit against the bottom of the pan or directly on the floor if there is no pan. Press firmly in place. The unit is now installed. To connect the units, uncoil the connecting wire of the lower unit. Place the short end of the tripper bar into the notch in the connecting bar. Holding that in place with one hand, with the other hand, bring the connecting wire to the notched end of the tripper bar and wrap it several times through and around the notches. The wire needn't be extremely tight. A small amount of slack is actually desirable, but should have most of the slack removed. The system can tolerate about 1 inch of slack, but no more. Extra wire can be removed for convenience. If necessary, the eye bolt can be used to divert the connecting wire around obstructions. The next thing to do is take that little cheater bar, slip that over the valve handles so that you can open that valve against that powerful spring. The spring can now be cocked to activate the system. The valve is rotated from the closed position to open as shown here. Holding that in place, the end of the tripper bar is again placed in the notch of the retainer bar. If it won't quite reach, there are adjustment nuts on the bolt to holding the tripper bar that allow the tripper bar to be moved from side to side. Now release the valve handle so it can close against the retainer bar and hold it in place. Now retighten the hose clamps. They often loosen during installation. The flood X system is now installed. If you want to close the valve at any time, just tug on the connecting wire and the spring will close the valve. It's desirable to do this occasionally to check that the valve is still operating adequately. To reset the system, use the cheater bar, recock the spring, and reset the tripper and retainer bars just like we did before. The Flood X water heater unit has also been adapted to shut off the gas supply for a gas heater when water triggers the lower unit. The adapted lower unit has a switch mounted at its top that has leads to be attached to a thermocouple interrupter. The interrupter connects in series with a thermocouple circuit and interrupts that circuit and shuts off the gas when the switch is activated. The switch is activated whenever a water leak triggers the system. For installation, the upper unit is installed exactly as you do for the electric water heater. For the lower unit, the first thing to do is shut off the gas. Then unscrew the thermocouple lead from its connection. This is a commercially purchased thermocouple interrupter that is included in the gas water heater package. Screw this firmly into the thermocouple connection. Screw the thermocouple lead firmly into the thermocouple interrupter. Now install the gas water heater lower unit by removing the paper protector from the Velcro and sliding the lower unit against the gas water heater exactly as you did for the electric water heater installation. Note the plexiglass ring that activates the switch. Attach the leads from the switch to the thermocouple interrupter contacts. Connect the gas water heater lower unit to the upper unit exactly as for the electric water heater system. Now then, open the gas following the usual directions that are on the gas water heater. Once you get the gas turned on, check and make sure that closing the switch shuts off the gas to the heater. To do this, just push on the top of the switch with your finger. To replace the water-sensitive cartridge, first thing you have to do is take the lower unit off. Taking care with the connecting wire to the upper unit, carefully pull the lower unit from its Velcro base. Loosen the wing nut on the side of the unit. Rotate the outer housing to the left and slide the housing off. Now rotate the cartridge to the left and remove it. Insert a new cartridge and rotate to the right to lock. You have to push against the spring to do this. Slide the outer housing back into place and rotate that to the right to lock. Now tighten the lock nut to hold the housing and cartridge in place. Reattach the lower unit to its Velcro base, making sure you get it down to the bottom of the base again. Reset the upper unit as described for the original installation.